Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche pregame show presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR to get a new account and get amazing odds boosts every single day. Jesse, Rudo, AJ coming to you live. Avs taking on the Washington Capitals. They're one game in D.C. this year. And, you know, the real
is better than the one game in D.C. last year.
I mean, low bar.
Yeah.
I feel like things don't typically go well for them there.
Yeah. Is it good or bad that they're playing against Darcy Kuemper? Are they going to light him up or is he going to shut him out?
Those are only two options.
You're right. There's no middle ground there.
Well, if it's Darcy Kuemper from October, probably shuts him out. But if it's the guy that he's been so far in November, they have a lot better chance to light him up. But, you know, I mean, we saw Georgiev back in New York. Like,
there's some fire there.
Yeah, I also think that was a lot more personal. Like there was some anger from Georgiev towards the Rangers. I don't think there's that same level with Kuemper and the Avs, you know. But you do want to like, oh, you didn't believe in me enough to give me that deal, huh? Okay, well,
you almost. I do wonder if this is another like Georgiev's been like a little bit of like a revenge tour here.
Yeah, through the East.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if it's a little bit of the same thing here, where like he knows that he replaced Kuemper, so I wonder if there's like a little bit of, I want to prove why you did that kind of thing.
True.
It's going to be interesting either way what happens in net.
Also not to be forgotten, Nick Aube-Kubel at the fringes of this lineup after leaving Toronto.
Is he still suspended?
I don't know. I'd have to check.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
He got 3 games.
Yeah, I don't know if this covers the 3 games or not.
Yeah.
So
I think they are getting their rings probably right about now, or maybe this morning.
Picked them up today, no doubt.
He's back in tonight. Cool.
There you go.
Just in time to hurt somebody else.
Go ahead and schedule that one down for an assist.
Well, probably more.
Probably a goal. Yeah, he's a goal scorer for sure.
More of his career.
So we'll see what the X-Avs end up doing there. Kind of weird. The Avs don't have any Capitals anymore, I don't think, because Berkey left. So
they were Capitals West there for a while.
Well, the Capitals were their goalie farm basically. So, but not anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
The tides have turned. Kuemper now back to Washington. Not back to, but to Washington.
Yeah, they took a goalie from Colorado for once. And the Avs actually were like, we're good.
Yeah.
You guys go and do that.
Both of the Caps goalies were free agents. Like, the Avs could have done that if they wanted to.
I almost thought they would. Like, I was like, I'm sure they'll grab one of these guys.
Not this time. Anyway, getting into tonight, I mean, we've talked about this. The Capitals have not been the best team in the world this year.
Really underwhelmed.
Is there an expectation that the Avs need to win this? Make sure they end up on the right side of this road trip tonight?
I mean, I feel like we talked about we talked about this the other day, that like you're just trying to survive on the road.
Sure.
You know, and with the injuries that you have, the guys that aren't in that lineup, you know, you would definitely love to get the win tonight.
But you live with what you get out of
your road trip is a success.
Of your lineup. Yeah.
And then you know you're going for the perfect on Monday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think is there pressure to do it? No, but I also think that they're going to be mad tonight. They're going to be good and upset because they know they played a dog shit game 2 days ago. They weren't any good. They know that, and they don't put those games together very often. So I think we're going to at least see a much better overall effort from Colorado. Just how they're wired. They don't play bad games.
Yeah. And you got a Washington team who's in a similar boat injury-wise.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You know, your last couple of games, St. Louis and then Carolina, like we're dealing with two teams who are on the good side of injuries right now, have a lot of their lineup hanging around for the most part.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you've got a team where it hasn't gone well for you the last couple times in Washington. You're playing a former goalie. I think there's a few things lining up here that I'm with AJ. Like, I think they'll be revved up to have a good game here and bounce back well. But I also think that you stealing that game in Carolina a couple nights ago takes the pressure off one of these games.
Yeah.
And with just kind of a bad track record of going in here, I don't know. If they lose tonight, I still don't think you're that upset. It's just cool. Now you got to go.
I mean, if you're going to lose it, don't lose it like you did 2 nights. Don't get outshot by 30.
Don't
play
get run
a
out of the
decent
building.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't have it be like you've now laid 2 absolute eggs of hockey games in 2 straight games. Like, your classic like hockey axiom, like show a little pride. You're
Well,
bounce back from it. Don't string together. Good teams don't string together bad games like that.
This is an extreme example, but like, don't let it turn into what that Vegas series was from a couple years ago, where you got away with the win in a game where you got horribly outplayed, and they kind of just like had that sense of like, oh, well, we're invincible then. We'll win games no matter what. You don't want to lull into something like that. I think they've actually done a really good job of
avoiding that,
and really battling through a lot of these injuries and earning a lot of their wins. And I mean, look, like this team won a cup. You can tell a difference in their maturity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think even if they were to come out and have a bad game tonight, it wouldn't concern me beyond tonight.
Right. Agreed.
But
totally.
right. But it's you don't want to have too many of these consecutively.
So an interesting topic that's forming around the Avs is penalty calls in general on this team. If you look at the penalties they've taken per game, they're smack dab league average, 16th in the league at a little over 4 penalties per game taken. But the difference from the last couple of years, the Avs actually have a negative penalty differential. They've taken 64. They've only gotten 60 called on their opposition. So a negative penalty differential is a pretty big contrast to a team that was the best team at drawing calls the last couple of years.
That's an awesome cadre effect too.
For sure.
He's a guy that is involved in so much. He's such a high volume penalty guy both ways.
Yep.
But usually ends up on the positive side of things, that not having him around to draw penalties seemingly every night, definitely hurts. And not having,
funnily enough, the other guy in the news today, Tyson Jost, was also.
So I was once AJ was done, I was going to say an underrated part of this too. When you talk about the way that they've drawn penalties the last few years, Tyson Jost is.
He was always very positive.
For all the areas he struggles, that dude drew a lot
he was
of
like
penalties.
top 5 in drawing penalties on the Avs every year. And given the minutes that he played,
right. I mean, like, seriously, there was a while there where it was like the way the math shook out, it was almost like every third shift he drew one. You know what I mean?
And it doesn't help that the penalties that they are being called for right now are easy calls.
Yep.
A lot.
Does that not feel like a
lot
bit
of
of a
high
theme?
stickings, man.
Like in the NHL, like I feel like a lot of these Avs games we've watched, both teams are just getting called for like these silly stick reaching hooks, high
slapped
sticks.
him on the hands. What do you think is going to happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Like I actually haven't had like a huge issue with the officiating at the start of this year. It's like, no, you're all just taking dumb penalties.
I think there's been some bad officiating.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
We don't have to get into that. They're making it way too easy for them to make calls, for sure.
Yeah, like it's like 2 minutes of last 2.5 minutes of a tie game. They're not trying to call penalties, and Alex Newhook is out there just bopping a guy in the face, and you're like, guys, like you're just making this easy with these calls. These aren't even judgment calls. This is you just hit a guy in the face.
right.
It's interesting.
There's no wiggle room to be mad.
Yeah, like you're not leaving them any room for yourself here.
It's interesting because we've seen other parts of the game start to tighten up now that we're 15 games into the season, but the penalties league-wide really have not been cleaned up by these teams yet. So just something to watch, see how things continue in that category, see if the Avs can get back onto the positive side of the penalty differential is something I'm curious to see, especially with the lineups they have now, because you're looking at your bottom 6 and you're going, look, just don't take a penalty. go out there, don't get destroyed, and don't take penalties. That's all you're asking those guys to do.
PK has at least been on the up.
It has.
I mean, that is the nice part about it is it has. I mean, it was so brutally bad to start the year, but it has started to get into a more normal rhythm where you're like, it's not losing you games. You're not like, oh God, they're on the PK. Here we go. You know, like it's been a couple of weeks since you felt that way about it.
It's funny because a lot of what the guys have talked about, and Jared Bednar have, ever since the Finland trip and right before that, we're looking forward to being able to get into a rhythm. We want to get into a rhythm. They've used that word a lot, rhythm. And I asked Josh Manson and Logan O'Connor last week about the penalty kill and if the injuries are impacting it. And they both kind of mentioned, actually, thankfully, the penalty kill units have been like one of the few parts of this team that the injuries haven't impacted. Like there hasn't been a ton of fluctuation. Yeah, you're down Val and you're down Helm, but those have you kind of gotten on without those guys for a while.
Yeah, because I
now?
mean, Cogliano and LOC and Confer are still there, and
Right.
and look, if there's one area where you could say Martin Kaut is maybe winning a job, it's that his PK work has been much better, than maybe every other area of his game. Like that's the one thing you're looking at, and you're like, he's been really good on a PK.
Yeah, and then on defense, Bowen Byram's really your only guy that would get any meaningful
rotation
minutes
time there.
Yeah,
But-
Gerard's not going to help that unit.
Right, but I mean, even then, you pull him out, you've still got Taves, McCarr, Manson, Johnson.
Yeah. To be honest with you, the two pairings that
Eat up the most.
Bednar would probably prefer,
Yeah.
as much as we may not love the Johnson-Manson combination.
And
That's probably where he's all about it.
You know, they were just making the point that has been the one area where they were saying we feel like we've seen some improvement because we have been able to get a little bit of a rhythm. We have been able to get that communication a little bit better, and so it is funny that as the rest of the team kind of does this with the injuries and just trying to keep their head above water, the PK seems to be the one.
I mean, the
that's on
power play, that's maybe the most remarkable part about the power play is that their fifth guy is like rotated. And they're getting goals from everywhere on your power play except Cale Makar.
Well, and
right, which it'll come there.
Well, and look, the power play is going to continue to be critical for them as long as they're dealing with these injuries.
Absolutely. Any free opportunity.
They're going to live and die by those special teams a little bit for this, at least the foreseeable future here.
Yeah, I would say really until they get Nichushkin back.
Yeah.
Because if you get that one top six guy back, he's...
It's just amazing the ripple effect that has.
It really is. Like, it's not like you get just Nichushkin back, but you're like, because de facto from your lineup, you're replacing Jason Megna with Val Nichushkin. Like the difference is just so big.
Well, and even I talked about it on Twitter several weeks ago, and I had some people kind of like scoff at it. But even Darren Helm, like you mentioned, that as
baseline,
like, right. It's just. Yeah, he's not like this huge key injury to this Avs team necessarily, but it's the replacement level that you're concerned with. Is that guy that's coming in behind him to the level of Darren Helm, and like no disrespect to any of those guys they've called up, but and obviously this was like peak Darren Helm, but the level that you saw Darren Helm able to get to in the postseason is why he's stuck in the NHL for as long as he has. And, like, you just miss that. You miss having that in the locker room. You miss having that guy on the ice. He eats up a lot of penalty kill minutes. Again, I'd like to go back to that conversation that we had with Greg Cronin about reliability. You don't realize ripple effect. No Darren Helm means that another one of your top guys has to now eat penalty kill minutes and has to block some shots, and it adds to some of these inflated totals that if you have a Darren Helm, you can roll him in a place where maybe you wouldn't a Jason Megna. And it just, to your point, AJ, once you start getting any of these guys back from injury, it makes such a huge difference everywhere in the roster.
Yeah.
In this same vein of thinking, we've seen the Avs not be nearly as strong as a possession team so far this season.
Yeah, imagine that, man. You have no Val Nichushkin, you have no Gabe Landeskog, you have no Sam Girard, you have no Bowen Byram. Those are not four guys that are passengers.
Yeah.
Those are all four guys that literally are play drivers for you, that sit in your lineup, and like those guys push play forward. And Val has been a guy that has elevated every line that he's been on. So not having him around, like that's why you're surviving right now. you're not a very good possession team right now because you have guys like JT Compher and Evan Rodriguez who are fine NHL players, but having to be the best guys on their line. They have to drive play. And as we've seen, Compher doesn't do that. Evan Rodriguez has done a little bit of that, but at 5v5, it has not been anywhere near consistent.
Yeah. Really, truly driving play you haven't seen very much of out of Rodriguez, to be honest.
And you do have right now a fourth line. Those are Colorado Eagles.
Yep.
It's an AHL fourth line.
Straight up.
For the record, the Avs are 6th in goals against per game. Just reading chat.
I can't decide who's mad at who.
And look, that's going to come with a bit of the territory of, obviously the Carolina game the other night is taken to the ultimate extreme, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we've seen a fair number of games this season where the Avs are getting outshot. Sometimes it's score effects. Sometimes they're just not possessing the puck very well. There's a lot of factors going into that. But compared to last year, you really didn't see them get outshot hardly ever.
Yeah, they were a juggernaut last year, and they're not this year.
Right.
And I think that's...
it's just the realities of who the Avs are this year are starting to set in.
Well,
are they? Because you don't even know.
I disagree. I disagree a little bit.
There's a gigantic caveat of multiple players missing, but
where they are, you just watched me look it up, man. That's what I was just doing. They're 6th. Like NHL.com, man. Easy. With the Avs, though, what you are seeing from the healthy part of the group is that your goaltending might be better than what you had last year.
True.
Certainly, at this time last year, it's better than what they...
Significantly better.
Well, because you remember, Frankie was hurt the first month, so you had Jonas Johansson in net, and you had Darcy Kuemper who hadn't figured it out. Had not settled it in, had not really started to play well. But starting in December, he did. He kicked it up and never really stopped until he got hit in the eye.
Stabbed in the eye. Well, see, I actually, like I said, I really do. I disagree. To me, I've been more impressed at the start of this year with the resiliency and the level that this team has gotten to in spite of all of the injuries. I think we are a long ways from seeing any resemblance of what this team could look like.
It's hard to feel like you have an idea of what the Avs are until Gabe Landeskog is on the ice for you. Yeah. Because he's such a big part. And talking about the possession and how they're not as good as they were last year, like they definitely won't be last year's team. There was a reason that when they got into the postseason, the modeling had the Avs at like... In the first round, even they were at like 55% to win the cup or whatever. Like they were an exceptional 5v5 team last year. They were top 3 in pretty much every meaningful category that you could find. They did everything well, and then they won the Stanley Cup because
Well, it was funny because all of these, like you said, all the models were coming out that had them as like significant favorites, and that was
everything.
I've talked about it before. This was maybe my favorite part of the build up to the final and just being around and the more and more media that started showing up. Because people love to, celebrate when models are wrong or they have teams rated higher than they should or lower than they should. And the models had the Avs by like such a wide margin in a lot of categories that it looked irregular because since we've had models like this, there really hasn't been a team as dominant as the Avs.
Except for the 56-game Avs, which came with caveats everywhere.
Right.
They played in the worst division. They only played those teams. There were only 56 games.
And it was so fun to see this national media start piling in the later the rounds went, very skeptical of this Avs group because, well, how could they be that good? And just at every round, every game, they were that good.
They went 16-4.
Right. It's like these models, like they don't just like, ooh, I like their roster. Like that's a good team.
The
like,
models,
they're based off of what has actually played out.
They're purely built off of on ice results.
Right.
That is how they came to be. And last year's team was like, It was so good. It's so at every level, every layer of the roster was so much better that you're talking about a team that had a 33-point Alex Newhook rookie season, healthy scratched for the first round.
Yep.
And it just didn't really matter. Andre Burakovsky was a healthy scratch after a 61-point season at one point during the postseason. Good Lord.
Saying they went 16-4 is almost underselling it because they had 2 sweeps. Half of those losses came against the back-to-back Cup champs, who they beat to win. So
to me, the most impressive one is the 9-1 on the road.
Yep.
And your only road loss coming to the back-to-back champs who had their
backs against the
their
wall.
backs against
Down
the
2-0.
wall.
Yeah.
Win or die basically, and that's the only one.
Yeah.
And
6-1 in overtime.
Right.
We're kind of sideways here, but
it's all about, it all comes back to the possession, and the reason we're talking about all of this is that was all made possible by a team that just didn't give up the puck. Again, you're trying to close out the back-to-back defending champs. You have a 1-goal lead on the road, and that was maybe the best period of hockey I've ever watched in my life. It was
they didn't give up anything.
From their standpoint. Yeah. Tampa Bay would not agree.
I mean, from just a pure X's and O's standpoint, you know what I mean? As a neutral observer to that game, that is some of the best hockey you will ever see in your life, because it was just they pushed the play. Only took chances when they felt they could, controlled the puck, didn't give up any ice. It was just, that was the level of team last year that led to those types of results.
They can't be that team
right
at
now.
The moment.
Sure. And
they've got Landeskog's at $7 million, and so they've got $13 million in forwards in just top 6 forwards
space,
that just aren't doing anything now.
And look, yes, you might not know who the Avalanche are for the second half of the season yet, but this is who they are now.
I think it's a blessing in disguise, though, because as long as I will say it will continue to be a blessing in disguise, as long as they keep finding ways to win games and be competitive. They don't have to win every game, obviously. I'm not even saying they have to win 4 or 5, but if they're winning
500 plus
3-ish out of every 6, while this roster looks the way that it does, I think you can be pretty okay with that. The division won't get run away from in that regard. But I think it could be a good thing, because you are looking at is Martin Kaut earning a spot? Is he figuring out what he needs to do every night now to actually
it's the every night, and that's where it's maybe a blessing.
Well, and it's is he only going to be successful playing 10 minutes a night?
Right.
Where if everybody comes back healthy and you're well, we can't play him on the 4th line because we know he can't do 6 minutes a night. But if he can be on our 3rd line at 12 minutes a night, can he stick there?
Yeah.
And it just lessens the need of not even just Martin, any of these guys.
Yep.
Are any of these guys able to prove I really, really belong here? I really maybe even when you get into the postseason as your 13th or 14th guy, instead of playing Curtis McDermott or Jacob McDonald as the 13th or 14th forward here, and you could talk about, you don't need to go get a guy because you have Martin Kaut. Maybe Jacob McDonald, maybe Martin Kaut is earning the 13th forward spot when he gets back, so that he's your first guy into the lineup, and you're not hanging on to 2 naturally trained defensemen who are playing at forward for you in these emergency situations.
And see, that's what I'm looking for out of these kind of young fringe guys right now. Is can you win that exact job that you just described, AJ? Because that is the
well, they're all open, right? There's several things here where it's
that is
all of this is in play.
Identity of this Avs team is that they have guys who are committed and bought into the role that is asked of them, that they are asked to play. That is why this team is so good. Everybody understands their spot in the lineup. Yes, could you be getting more somewhere else? But we need you to do this better than anybody else. And that's what I think you are maybe, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. You're maybe starting to see Martin Kaut figure out a bit. It's like we said at the beginning of the show, I think the best part of his game has been his penalty kill.
Well, and defensively, he makes at least one play on defense every game where you're like, that's a really nice play.
Hey, we know you can score. We know you have offensive upside. This is what we need you to do. Go do this at a high level, and you'll find yourself in position to make plays in the offensive zone.
With a little
But
more help, you'd have some assists too.
Sure.
Thanks, Dryden Hunt.
Yeah. But, so cool. Can you do that? And can you do it in a limited role? If we put you out there for 7 minutes, can you go give us 6 minutes and 55 seconds of effective ice time? And that's how you then earn the 15 minutes coming into.
Well, and I think what's nice about how the team is built is that when they're healthy, you won't have a 7-minute line because you'll have Helm, Cogliano, LOC, Kuemper making up like the bulk of your bottom six where you're like, these guys are all trusted.
Yeah.
And if Martin Kaut is on a line, maybe you have Newhook and Kuemper and Kaut and some combination, whatever,
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
And like instead of getting 7 minutes, he's consistently going to get 11 because during this time frame, he's shown enough that even if it's not going great offensively, even if he's not like on that game defensively, he's taking care of business. He's winning battles. He's making good decisions with the puck.
Okay.
Like that's because I think that's the one guy, especially that's currently in the lineup, that actually can, I think, win a spot.
Yeah. Do we have Blaze's bets or no? No? All right. There's only one bet you need to know over at DraftKings, and that's bet on Mikko to have a 2-point night. All the other bets don't matter. Just go bet on that one.
I've got Makar tonight.
You feeling a Makar game?
I've got a Makar anytime goal. I don't know what the odds are.
Plus 205.
Plus 205?
Makar plus half a point in the power play. Plus half a power play points. It's plus 105.
Cool.
You said over half of power play points plus 105?
Yeah, I mean, Makar with a power play point on plus money is something you should take every game.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they give it to you. I can't believe that they're still trying to lose money on Cale Makar.
It's incredible. It is really, truly.
I'm assuming the line is 6.5 for goals.
I would assume so.
I would take the over. I'm going to take the over on that.
There you go. So
if you give up goals tonight, only do it to Ovi.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Don't give up any goals or Kuznetsov, and that's all about me personally.
Oh my God. So there's our bets.
6.
It's 6 flat. That's an easy over.
Yeah, minus 105.
There's
Why?
There's the bets.
Yeah, that's weird.
I got to shout out my dad and my Uncle Andy watching from Arizona right now.
Hi, Dad and Uncle Andy.
Appreciate y'all. We're going to wrap this pregame show up. I'm going to go jump on the watch along, so join us for that on the same YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, do all that good stuff on YouTube, and I will talk to you in just a couple of minutes.